Pro-gun sheriff found not guilty. Jury nullifies false arrest of Nick Finch, who is a national hero. He needs to be the next governor, I'm telling you right now, of Florida. It's these type of men that stand up for the Constitution that are going to save this country, and jury's doing the right thing. Pro-gun sheriff found not guilty, and Sheriff Finch joins us. Nick Finch, the Florida sheriff arrested in June after he defended the Second Amendment, has been declared not guilty on the charges brought against him, according to Richard Mack, reporting for Infowars.com. It's now confirmed by local news as well. The former Liberty County sheriff is about to be reinstated, so he still is the sheriff, we should probably add. Sheriff Finch, thank you so much, sir. This is a real honor for me. I don't get excited having Hollywood folks on. I get excited having you on. I got some butterflies. We salute you, and we salute that jury. Tell folks what happened to you. Tell us what it was like in there with that jury, sir.
Well, first, Alex, let me say thanks for having me on. I know that we've been trying to get up with each other for a long time, and we've kind of slipped through the cracks, and that's fine. But it's fine. It's good to finally meet you and get to talk to you. You know what? Yesterday afternoon, when we put on our defense, my attorney and I talked, and we kind of said, here's what I said to my attorney. I said, you think we'd shock the whole world if we didn't put on any defense at all? I said, I think the prosecution's already proved our case for us. And he smiled at me. He said, it's up to you, Sheriff. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I definitely need to go on a stand. I said, these jurors want me to look them in the eye and tell them that I did not commit any crimes, and that's what I did. And when I took the stand, I had direct eye contact with each juror, and each juror was looking at me, and they were paying attention to what I said, and they knew when I got done testifying that I was telling the truth, and they verified that. Yesterday, after I got off the stand, I was convinced that I was going to be found not guilty.
Now, sir, tell us about the false charges. Testify to the worldwide audience of 3 million people right now. In a nutshell, you've got the floor, Sheriff. What happened to you, what they did for those that didn't really follow the case or only saw state-run media demonizing you, and the entire political system coming after you because they're so afraid of lawmen being Americans, and then what it was like when you were found not guilty. And then I want to warn you, they're going to probably come after you again. You're a smart guy, you know that. But I mean, you're a national figure of honor. And I never talk like this to folks, but I know you're just going to say you did the right thing and upheld your oath, but we salute you, sir, for your courage. Because
well, I appreciate that, Alex. And when I got elected sheriff, you know, my deep, dark desire was not to become a national figure, but I know that I have, in some aspect, became a national figure, and that's okay. I'm big enough to handle that. But in a nutshell, what happened was one of my deputies made a traffic stop about 30 miles south of the capital of Liberty County, or the county seat of Liberty County. Found a firearm in a fellow's right front pocket. Guy's out there not bothering anybody. You know, he's on his way home. He's 5 miles from the house. And so my deputy arrested him for carrying a concealed firearm. And so I had got a call, and you know, my wife was with me at the time, actually, and I told my wife, I said, I wish he wouldn't have done that. I said, you know, I've got Second Amendment issues here that really bother me about that. Now, everybody knows in the state of Florida, the state law says that if you're going to carry a concealed firearm, you got to have a permit. But you know, I joined the military in 1981, Alex, and I swore the very same oath to support, protect, and defend the Constitution. And obviously, I agreed with that oath so much that I went to war for this country. So, you know, to me, the Constitution still means something. So I made the decision not to go through with the arrest. I went to the jail. I personally went to jail. Now, you got to understand, Liberty County is the smallest county in the state of Florida, 8,300 residents. These people want their sheriff to be personally involved, and that's what I am, is personally involved. And so I go and I release the guy. I tell the jailer we're not charging him, and I walk out and go home. But hell, that was on that was on March the 8th. Didn't hear another word about it until May 24th, when the Florida Department of Law Enforcement served a search warrant on my jail at 11 o'clock at night with, now listen, I told you I'm the smallest county in the state. We've got 8,300 residents, and they sent 4 FDLE agents to serve a search warrant on my jail.
Like you were a criminal.
Like I was a criminal. And so the very next morning, actually, that was Friday, Saturday morning, I woke up. I had the commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I had his cell phone number as the sheriff of Liberty County. You know, I've got a lot of cell phone numbers. And I called him, and I said, you know what? I said, all you really had to do was ask me what happened, and I'd have told you. But now that now that you've started a criminal investigation, my lips are sealed, my friend. I have nothing to say. And so, you know, I have known all along, Alex, everybody who has paid attention has known all along that I violated no law, and what I did based on my belief in the Second Amendment. Of course, the state tried to make it like I did a favor for a good old boy kind of thing, and they got up there yesterday and put on their dog and pony show, and they really had no case to begin with. But what
Sheriff, I mean, I'm not a sure
without pay, and having a felony hanging over my head, and it had an effect on me. I mean, I'm more concerned for my wife and my two daughters. You know what? They didn't sign up for this. They didn't deserve this. I'm a big boy. I can handle anything they want to throw at me. But it was hard on them, and it being hard on them made it hard on me. So.
Well, Sheriff Nick Finch joining us via cell phone right now. I'm not obviously an expert on the Florida Constitution, but I've read over the laws, had some lawyers on about your case. The way I read it, correct me if I'm wrong, that's out in the open. You're not supposed to have a gun concealed without the permit. But isn't it different in your house or your car under a lot of the rulings, and especially if you're traveling to or from your home?
Well, there are some different conditions, and quite honestly, Florida Statute 79251, the title of that statute is possession of a firearm in a motor vehicle for self-defense and other purposes, and it goes on and on. But the state law is so contradicting, because in one part of the statute it says, yeah, you have the absolute right, and the legislator agrees you have the right to keep it, and then another part says if you got to have this. And then another part says, well, hell, if you're going fishing, you're okay. And so there's just so many different interpretations.
Exactly. So you're elected, and you're following it, so you make your determination, and then they try to put you in prison for that, for a law-abiding citizen out there who's trying to protect himself, and your deputy took him to jail. Do we know who inside your department did this and went to the establishment to bear false witness?
Yeah, the deputy that actually made the arrest on March the 8th, I guess when, after he decided that he didn't like that I was going to start looking into his financial situation, he decided to get a new job, and when he left, then he went forward 2.5 months later to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and complained about it.
Isn't that how it always is? So he didn't do this right away. He waited till you started trying to run a good shop.
Yes, yeah. Well, in fact, here's what happened. I hired 2 guys, made them captains, and I really was relying on those boys to help me out, because I always thought they were good boys. And I'm not saying they're not good boys, but what I'm saying is I was letting them do the hiring and firing. I'm the sheriff. I've got bigger fish to fry, and we were really put in a bind to begin with. When I took office, the top 7 leadership positions, and I don't want that to sound bad, but, I mean, we only have like 14, so the top 7 walk out the door. So immediately I'm tasked with trying to find 7 people to come in and pick up the pieces and move on. So, it was pretty hasty. I was told this guy was a good guy, he'd be a great deputy, and it just didn't turn out the way that I had hoped that it would. But, yes, to answer your question, they charged me with a third-degree felony, and had they prevailed in this witch hunt, then I would have lost my law enforcement certificate. I would have lost the 15 years I have in the Florida retirement system, and I would have probably gone to jail for a little while.
Sheriff, let's talk about this briefly. I saw a lot of the Republican establishment line up against you, which I thought was particularly disgusting, but I think it's a litmus test now. Clearly you weren't breaking any laws. Then they tried to say you destroyed the report when obviously, from your perspective, it was a false arrest. So you were simply just getting rid of something that was a false arrest. But, I mean, specifically, what do you make of some of the people in the state who claim that they're conservatives or patriots coming after you with such vengeance?
Well, in my opinion, they took the same oath that I took, Alex, to support, protect, and defend the Constitution, and I don't believe that, that was really what they were doing in this case. And am I mad? Yeah, I'm mad, but I'm going to try to get over being mad. And, I'm not going to say I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but what I'm saying is, at this point, right now I'm going to let bygones be bygones. I got to get back to work for the people of Liberty.
No, I hear you, but here's the bottom line. Just like they've gone after Arpaio and others who stand up to them, they're going to come after you now. You seem like a smart guy. I mean, you know to really watch your back now.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we've got that. I've got a plan to protect myself now, and I will not make myself vulnerable again, and they're going to have a hard time ever coming after. Now, you're right. I believe they will try.
What was it like? What was it like when the jury? Sure, and hopefully won't be successful. People need to stand behind you here. We're all hanging together. What was it like, sir, when the jury said not guilty? What did the prosecution and the judge that I've seen say some pretty prejudiced things against the case? How did they behave?
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I think the judge and the prosecution knew what the verdict was going to be before it ever came out, just like everybody else did. They weren't shocked. They weren't shocked. Because they knew that they had no case. The state presented no evidence against me at all.
I remember having lawyers on about it. I remember reading the statute. It's written both ways where they can do whatever they want. But clearly, you're in your car, you're in your house, you can have a gun, concealed, unconcealed, whatever. And he said, look, you're not supposed to do this. And then they tried to persecute him. It was the last thing they want is sheriffs being Americans. Everything is about getting rid of the sheriffs, federalizing them. Sheriff, we're going to get you on after this whirlwind of you being found not guilty by the jury today, next week for 30 minutes or so. Thank you for the time. In the 3 or 4 minutes we've got left, what are your political aspirations now? I know you probably never had any, but folks are going to want you to run for higher office. Where do you go from here? And what do you want to say to the jury and the American people?
Before, and I said I never ever had any political aspirations. But, I wanted to be the sheriff of Liberty County. I'm not a politician, but if I have to run for governor, if I have to run for state senator, if I have to run for a federal office, to try to stem the tide of what I believe is going on in this country, then I'm game as long as the people will support me. Hell, I'll go to the White House if they'll put me in there.
Well, exactly. That's the attitude we have to have. In the old days, back with Thomas Jefferson and people, they didn't want to go. George Washington, they were going to make him king. And he said, no, I don't want to go back to my farm. We want to have a free country. We don't want to go be around all these politicians, but we've got to serve. Just like you did in the Army, just like you're doing as sheriff, and we need leaders like you. But getting back to the jury, you got cut off. What was it like after they said not guilty? What was the look on the judge and the prosecutor's face, and did you get a chance to talk to the jurors?
No, I did not get a chance to talk to jurors. I did hold a press conference right after, and I thank each and every one of the jurors for coming to the only logical conclusion that they could come to. I think this jury was fair and impartial. They were very attentive through the whole trial process, and I couldn't have had a better jury if somebody else would. If I'd have been able to handpick them myself, I couldn't have had a better jury. To answer the question about the prosecutor and the judge, you know what? I really believe they knew in their heart that it was going to be not guilty, and there was really very little reaction from any of them.
I just saw a report yesterday where they were saying the judge wanted to make an example of you. I guess he didn't get what he wanted.
I guess not. Well, the prosecutor, Willie Meggs, when this all started, he told me, they offered me a deal, and the deal was, Sheriff, you resign, and we'll drop the charges, and we'll hold a special election in 2 years, and you can run for office again. And you know what I said to that? And then they called back about a week later and said, if you don't decide by Friday, the offer's off the table and we'll go to war. And I looked at my attorney and I said, you tell that prosecutor I know that at least one of us has been to war, so if that's what he wants, that's what he's going to get.
Well, that's what these bullies don't get, is that they've been pushing too long and good people are standing up. The sleeping giant is awakening. In closing, after you leave, any other points you think are important to make, Sheriff, about the fight we're in this country and what you've gone through?
Well, I just think that it's important more now than ever that these politicians start remembering the oath that they took to the Constitution and start standing up and fighting for the people that they swore that oath for. I find it absolutely disturbing the direction that this country is going in, and I'm concerned, Alex. I really am.
So where do you go from here? Just trying to get back to protecting and serving in your community?
For now, the first step is I have had contact with the governor today. They're working on a reinstatement order that should come this afternoon, so I'm ready to get back to work for the people of Liberty County, get things settled down, get our agency running back the way it needs to be running, and then maybe in a couple of years from now we can look into maybe moving to a different position.
Sheriff Nick Finch, we're going to break. I'll say bye to you and let you get back to the other press conferences. Stay there. Thank you so much. Put him on hold, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, this is history happening. He went through the fire, and now he's going to be more successful in the fight of liberty with name recognition. By not backing down, he now is a national figure. We should all learn from that. This is how we become a free country again. Now, folks, we do have Sheriff Richard Mack joining us for a quick update before he goes in and teaches a Constitution course to elementary school students. That's where the real fight is, and he understands that. Tirelessly traveling the country to warn people about what's happening. But we've got him till the bottom of the hour. Then I'm going to news blitz and take your calls. He was there when Sheriff Nick Finch was found not guilty by a jury yesterday of upholding the Constitution. The state law in Florida is written where you can carry a gun concealed in your car or your home for protection, but the cop arrested him, the sheriff's deputy, for having it saying, well, he was in public. And the sheriff said, well, I hired you to enforce the Second Amendment. We're letting the guy out. So they arrested him. The governor came out against him. The Republican leadership came out against him, where the Democrats tried to put him in jail with a felony. The jury found him not guilty. But I wanted to get Sheriff Richard Mack to join us to talk about what it was like watching the trial over those 2 days and what it was like to see the jury when they said not guilty. And because this is a historical event. Of course, Sheriff Richard Mack defeated the Brady law at the Supreme Court, so he's another hero sheriff. But we've got another one joining the ranks big time. And by the way, they tried to put Sheriff Mack in jail as well before, with fake investigations, and Sheriff Arpaio and others. I mean, they come after these men that stand for America. The fight is here, folks. These are soldiers of the Republic. Sheriff Mack, good to have you on with us.
Thanks a lot, Alex. This is a tremendous victory for freedom and liberty, and I so much appreciate you giving it your attention.
Well, we're all in this together, brother. I better.
Absolutely.
So tell folks the highlights of what you saw.
Well, Alex, I really wish everybody could have been there. All your listeners would have been amazed. This was the Constitution on trial in this courtroom. This was the oath of office. This was a constitutional sheriff defending himself against the state who had fired him, taken him away from his job, took away his income, trying to destroy himself and his family. And serious, when Sheriff Finch took the stand, he was defending the oath of office he took to the Constitution. He was defending nullifying an arrest of an innocent. And everybody admitted that this man had no criminal record, that he was not a prohibited felon, that he had threatened no one, that he had committed no harm to anybody. But because this deputy created the crime of possessing a gun on his person without a permit, then the sheriff came in, looked at the entire situation, and nullified the arrest of this poorly instructed deputy. This happened just 2 months after Sheriff Finch was in office. Now the attack really came, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement investigated it, never once interviewed the sheriff, came in, served a search warrant, arrested him, and booked him into his own jail. The governor came in, suspended him, and then, get this, Alex, the prosecutors and the Attorney General's office told Sheriff Finch, we'll make this all go away. We'll remove these felons from your record if you'll just leave the office of sheriff and never come back. Sheriff Finch refused. He went to court, and a good jury saw through all the smokescreen and all the corruption of these corrupt prosecutors and a corrupt judge. They recognized it for what it was.
But the state wants it misapplied. This happens everywhere. They want anti-gun, anti-liberty police and sheriffs. And they always go after folks that don't toe the line. And that's why police will come to your house. If your neighbor sees you with a gun, getting in and out of your car. Doesn't matter if the gun's legal. They'll take you to jail because they know they get in trouble if they don't. Let people sort it out later. But Sheriff Finch's real crime was following the Constitution. And as Sheriff Mack was just trying to eloquently say as we went to break, well, repeat what you said about historical this is, and then get into watching the trial, some of the nasty stuff the judge did, and then what it was like when the jury came back with the not guilty verdict.
Well, it was truly a miracle all the way around, and really appreciate all your listeners and their support. Sheriff Finch took on this battle against the powers that you would not believe. This literally worse than fighting the IRS and going to court on stuff like that. The government at every level went after him. The county, the police officers, even his own former employees and current, and the state, the attorney general's office, the governor's office. He's fighting all of that, and he has no income. He has no way to pay lawyers. We still really need to get him donations to help pay for his legal fees. But this is what happened. This good man did exactly what you and I have been praying for, and all your listeners have been praying for, that there would be a sheriff with the courage to tell the government, leave this good man alone. I'm nullifying the arrest. I'm nullifying what you did. I'm going to protect him. I'm going to stand by him. Sheriff Finch nullified the arrest of a good law-abiding citizen, and then a good, honest jury nullified the arrest of a good constitutional sheriff. Alex, this is so historical. It's so huge. It's an example now to the rest of the world. This is what a sheriff is supposed to do, and this is what a jury is supposed to do. And what happens when a jury nullifies the corrupt acts of corrupt public officials? Freedom is the result, and that is what happened in Liberty County. Liberty is the result of Liberty County. We have a good, honest sheriff there that wants to do the right thing. He has been restored to his job, and he hasn't got his back pay yet. We think that's going to happen, but it doesn't look like the state is going to pay for his legal fees. We've got a lot of work to do and a lot of support to still give him. I want all of your listeners to go to cspoa.org, make a donation for Sheriff Finch, and get involved in this process. Folks, we have a solution, we have proof, and Sheriff Finch is the hero taking this to the streets.
And again, your cell phone broke up a moment, Sheriff Mack. Give out your website for the Constitutional Sheriff's Association again. Okay,
it's CSPOA, stands for Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association. CSPOA.org.
Sure, and folks can link through it, Sheriff.
Right there to Sheriff Finch.
Sure, they can link through it, sheriffmac.com as well. But the issue here is reading the law. He followed the law. It shows how organized and evil these groups are. They'll undoubtedly try to come back after him again because they know if they let one constitutional sheriff stand up, they might all stand up, and then there is the end of this lawless, criminal, anti-American takeover. So it is our duty to back him and you and others and really take this hero around the country to be an example to others and stand together. It's got to really make the anti-gunners mad. But, Sheriff, in closing, we only got a minute and a half. Highlights of the trial, and when they said not guilty, how upset was that judge that I saw prejudicing himself in the news?
They were slumped down in their chairs, looking like a little lost puppy. But the rest of us were so thrilled. We just couldn't believe the magnitude of the miracle that we got there. We were all thrilled. We hugged, we cried. We cried. And his daughter was just beautiful. She's just 16 years old. Her name's Amber, and she looks like Amber. She's blonde. His wife stood by him. Supported him.
And by the way, Sheriff Finch, I should add, it was a combat veteran, and they threatened him. They said, we're going to go to war with you. And he said, I'm standing with America. Let's go to war.
Yes, and he said, when the prosecutor badgered him about his belief in the Second Amendment, he said, Counselor, the Second Amendment in the Constitution must count for something. And it was the most powerful moment of the whole trial. When Finch gave that testimony of the Constitution and his dedication to the Second Amendment, it was the biggest moment of the whole trial.
Well, good job reporting there for Infowars.com. Sheriff Mack, thank you for your tireless work in defense of liberty. Now go talk to those elementary students about the Constitution.
We can't have a totally armed society.
We'll never get a handgun ban with the Second Amendment as stated.
I don't know. I don't know that we can't.
None of these rights are absolute. None of them.
Senator Dianne Feinstein was the author of the assault weapons ban in 1994.
Professor Koppel, was the 1994 assault weapons ban a sensible and effective means of reducing gun violence?
Based on the Department of Justice study, the answer was no.
The assault weapons ban made sense.
And just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Do they need a bazooka?
No one's taking away all the guns.
No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
I'd love to see that. In uniform.
I will not take your shotgun away. I will not take your rifle away. I won't take your handgun away.
Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in.